Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining panel discussion 2. We have a lay member here. We have an opening question. So I'd like to ask you everybody to introduce yourself and have an answer of the opening question. Christian.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Christian. I'm from the San Francisco church. Yeah.
So why do you practice the Konko faith and what keeps you coming back? Or how did you find the Konko faith and why does it feel like your spiritual home? Or what does praying anywhere, anytime, and anything means to you personally?
Yeah, so praying at any time, anywhere, for anything to me, that means a lot. So for my own spiritual practice, like prayer is fundamental, and it's about really synchronizing my entire life. I feel like if you think about like a songbird, like every time they open their mouth, they're singing. They don't talk. You know, it's like they're always singing. I feel like for us as human beings, like our entire lives are kind of a prayer, and so that everything that we say, think, or do is effectively a kind of prayer to Kami, and maybe potentially from Kami. But that's even further thinking. But for the most part, what I try to do is synchronize my thoughts and my actions and my deeds to what my intentions are, and I consider that the prayer of my life as the spiritual being in the world. So to synchronize all of my life with my true intentions and being in harmony with myself, and harmonizing and listening to what Kami-sama is saying to me, and via the environment around me, you know, listening deeply and trying to understand that, interpret that, and seeing how I can harmonize myself with Kami-sama and the greater world. For me, that's kind of what prayer is. So I find myself praying rather often, maybe not in a conventional sense, but in terms of harmonizing my mind with Kami-sama in order to achieve my desires, as well as I think what Kami wants for me, for humanity, that kind of thing. That's what like praying anywhere, anytime, for anything is for me. Just asking Kami-sama, am I doing the right thing right now? You know, and then listening for an answer. That's a big part of it. Listening for an answer. And I don't limit that to any time or any space in particular. Sometimes I'll just be like walking through like a forest environment or something like that, and I see this like a tree that just like that really just catches me, you know, brings me to awe, and I bow to the tree, you know, and I say a quick prayer of like, thank you, Kami-sama, for your beauty and your magnificence, and yeah, I feel like that's what praying anywhere, anytime, or anything means to me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lincoln, also from the San Francisco church. For the question, why do you practice the Konko faith and what keeps you coming back? I think that answer has really grown over time for me over the years. The very first answer to that question was always because my mom took me with her. That was always the kind of main thing as I grew myself more and as I met more people here, many of the faces out here in the crowd. It's something that just having other people around me, other people that have kind of the same mindset, are always very supportive and always there for me, is something that's also kept me going. It's also something that I just feel like I always have this sense of support and positivity that I try to put out into my life, that I really appreciate having that backbone there. And so it's something that always keeps me returning. It always keeps me in depth here, because the world is a really stressful and crazy place, especially as recently. But it's something that always makes me feel safe. So even though it's something that can kind of scary or stressful to go outside and do all these different activities or do everything. It always makes me feel safe and confident in myself and confident that I can go out there and just put my best foot forward for everything.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bryn Ashton. Nice to meet you all this morning. See all these smiling faces and engaged people. I'm excited to be here. So the answer to the question I wanted to ask was, what is the Konko faith to you? What keeps you coming back? What brought you here? And for me, what brought me here is Kami-sama. Short, simple, to sweet. Kami-sama brought me to this faith. I would not have known anything without Kami-sama. My being begins and ends with Kami-sama. But Kami-sama isn't the only force that keeps me coming back. What keeps me coming back to this faith time and time again is the connection between every single one of you and all the Kongo people overall in this community. All of your faith, all of your strength, all of your passion and love that you show for one another and to the world at large is what keeps me coming back. It is that passion that exists between all of us and continues going on. And that's what Kami-sama celebrates with us. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to keep being a member of Kongo Faith. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Katayama. I'm from the Sacramento Church, and I'm going to answer the question of why do I practice faith and why do I keep coming back? And I think half of you might be bored with this because you already know my story, but some of you may not. And I think really what brought me to practice Kongo faith is I was born into the religion or faith. I started coming with my parents and my grandparents when I was little, but I really didn't start believing or anything until I joined the youth camp program, and that's the youth program here is so essential and critical to our faith for learning and growing. And my story is it was like the second year of youth camp. All of us kids were goofing around. We went out, laid out in the field or whatever to put stars, and then, just hung out. And the next morning I woke up, and one of my friends who was there, his name's Kensaku, he came up and I was taking my shirt off, and he goes, "Whoa, what's going on?" And I looked, and my whole body was covered with a rash, some sort of rash. I don't know what it was or anything. And I was, we had to hurry up and get ready to go to morning service. We're always running late. So I just jumped into the shower. And, I wasn't really a believer, but they were always telling us, pray for anything. And I think it still goes with things. Anytime, any place, anywhere, I was in the shower. It seems like, the restroom is my place. It's either the toilet or the shower. Now that I find it odd, but I was in the shower, and I was just showering, and I said, you know what? We keep talking about all this praying. We keep talking about all the prayers. So I did the prayer, and I don't know if it was really sincere. It was more prove to me, show me you exist. It was like my prayer was, Kami, if you really exist, you're gonna help me get through this and help it go away. So show me something. And that was my prayer. It was very demanding. I don't know if at that time I didn't know if that was the right way to be doing it, but I wanted to find out if it worked. And I just went about my day. And later on in the afternoon, I remember clearly we were playing basketball with all the senseis. And then Aaron came up to me and said, "Hey, how's the trash going?" So I lifted up my shirt, and it was completely gone. And the whole time I had not noticed that it was still there or anything like that. I was just going about my day, having fun. And then that was my my awakening. That was the one experience where I realized, dang, I asked and I received. So ever since then, I made it a point that I was not going to miss any of the youth program or any of the camp, But it was that life-changing experience that I realized that, this Tell me some exists. Tell me some is there. And your prayers exist. But you gotta try. Try praying and, putting it out there. And, perfectly with the theme this year, anytime, any place. And you're probably going to hear stories like more this morning, but definitely, don't hesitate. When it comes to you is when you should pray. At that moment, that time, whether it's in the toilet, as you guys heard last night, or in the shower now, anytime is a great time to pray. And I think the sooner you pray, the better. But that's, what got me here, and what keeps me coming back is all of you, all of the little kids here, seeing them grow up. I keep challenging them to beat my record. I have never missed any youth camp and young adult seminar. There wasn't family camp when I was growing up, but I did get to lead the family camps. I still feel like I hold the record. So I challenge each and every one of you youth members to try to beat my record and continue coming back and learning and practicing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Everybody, thank you very much. So John shared his challenge in terms of immediate blessing he received after he prayed. Do you have any similar experience, like you prayed and received immediate blessing? Lincoln, grading concurso.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I can think of here. I guess I would say one of the main things when I was in youth camp before, I remember I was getting ready, I was all very excited, and I said, I hope that I have a really fun, youth camp. That time I didn't care about safe, I didn't care about anything else. I just said, I want to have fun. And I remember I got to the camp and it was all like, we're having a really great time, having so much fun. And on day one, I stepped on a wasp. So I got a wasp sting on the very bottom of my foot. Hurt a lot. And I was like, oh man, this is horrible. Like I can't run around or anything. And I said, man, I had prayed so much for having fun, and at that time, how is this gonna help? But the first thing was was one of the first times I got to talk to Jube, and he was telling me about his stories, like when he had been stung by bees and doing everything. I was able to recover really quickly, and I was up and running probably a lot faster than I should have been, but I was still up and running. And I just had the greatest time. I really got to talk more to people. It was one of the first times that I was forced to just sit down and talk to people instead of just running around and doing everything. And I realized at that time two things. One was that I absolutely did. I thought it was a horrible event, but I definitely did get exactly what I had asked for the day before, where I had a great time, not always in the way that I expected it. And also now I always pray a safe and hopefully injury-free camp as well.
Christian?
Time where I prayed and had like a immediate response. Yeah. There's a couple of different stories I can tell. I guess I'll tell the one I told in Spirituality Bridge, where I was going camping with my family in Santa Cruz, and I was about 8 or 9 years old. And it's funny because being that young, we're still learning about faith and coming and stuff. So I come from the Christian faith, but I was with my family, my entire family, and we're going camping in Santa Cruz, and we're towing a trailer in the back. And as we're going up the mountain, it's like one of those. It has like these like tight curves, and the back side of our trailer slides off. Starts to slide off the side of the mountain a little bit, and fortunately we didn't just get pulled straight down off the mountain, but we did get stuck there right on the cliff, and we basically could not move. And my mom's freaking out. We're all freaking out, but like we have no idea what's going to happen, and we're all stuck. My dad's driving in the front. My mom immediately says, "Everybody pray," and so we do. Like it's like, oh, as kids, it's me and my younger siblings, my younger sister, my younger brother, and me, my mom, and my dad. And my mom says, "Everybody pray," and like we immediately start praying because if mom's freaking out, something's wrong. Like so. So we all start praying, right? But my dad's in the front, and he's just like, no, I got to take care of my family. What am I going to do? So he's not necessarily praying. He's got to figure out what's going on. So he's looking at the situation. He deems that, okay, everybody stay in the van because like we want to keep it in balance. Because, we don't want to rock the boat, so to speak. But my dad's in the driver's seat, so he gets out the driver's seat. And he goes around to check in the back, and he sees that the trailer's hanging off, not a whole lot, but enough that we're stuck, and like we can be pulled either way, either onto the road or down out. So my dad finds a couple of sticks, and he jams it into the underneath the tire to try to stabilize it, and then he hops back in the van. And he tries to pull away. He's stepping on the gas, and I remember very, very distinctly. He's really hammered on the accelerator, and we're not going anywhere. And so we're freaking out. And meanwhile, I'm still in the back with my siblings, and we're still like praying as hard as we can, the best we can. Like, God, please, Kami-sama. And my mom's like, in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus. But we're praying, because we were scared, and as my dad's stepping on the accelerator and trying to get this thing to come back onto the road so we can continue on safely, somebody in their car pulls up with their flashers on right behind us coming up the mountain, and they pull over and they shut out their window. Hey, you guys need any help? It's like my dad looks out the window. He's like, yeah, we need some help, please, anything, that's when I don't think that driver of that car knew what to do, but they were just like, they stepped out for a sec, they looked at it, they were like, I don't know. So then they just got back in their car, and they used the front side of their car just to sort of help nudge our trailer back onto the road, which was just enough for us to get some traction and pull back onto the road. And meanwhile, we're still praying and stuff. We don't know what's going on. We're scared. We're panicked because at any moment we could fall down that thing. But yeah, it was in that moment that I really just found the value of prayer, especially in times of need when there's nothing else when it's all outside of your control. Just immediately just pray, without thinking about it, without hesitation. Just kami onegaishimasu, please help us, and I think that affected my siblings as well too, because we've all definitely kept prayer in our lives to some degree, but it was like that immediate response of Kami will find a way, especially if you're desperate enough, Kami will find a way if you pray, if you trust, and just pray with total trust. Yes, it'll work itself out. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, you have
A situation in which prayer happened in an immediate way. I'm going to say it started actually a little bit before this. The actual prayer itself being answered happened immediately. It was a night that I set aside to honor my grandmother who had passed. And I was going to ceremony to honor her. And I set aside about 4 hours to do that just for her. And normally most people don't, they always need me for something. And I told everybody, this is the night I'm doing something for grandmother. She's passed away. I'm doing this for her. And my partner had been sick this entire time, and going back and forth to work. And normally him and me at the time didn't have a strong relationship as we used to in many years past because of some difficulties that we had gone through. Well, normally he'll call, if something happens, he'll call my other partner. My other partner has narcolepsy. and he was sleeping. So I was there getting ready to set up everything for my grandmother, and then I got a call from him, which is weird because he normally doesn't call me. Do something seriously, nothing normally seriously that he never calls. He would normally just text me. But when I knew he called me, I knew it was serious. I instantly picked it. And I asked him, what's going on? Is he okay? He's saying, Heart, can't move, can't move. And he had been biking back and forth to work this whole time. I can't stop. Where are you? So he tells me where he is. I'm down the last bit of my trip. I look on Google Maps to see where this is. That stay there. At the time, I was heavily disabled. I was walking with a cane and walking with knee brace. I could barely carry myself to do anything. I could barely walk. Somehow, some way, I was like, prayed, let me get there to help him. And I made it to the bus stop, which was 7 minutes away. I made it there in 5. I made it to the bus stop, and the bus came early. It came early, and I got on that bus, and I got to where he was just standing in the cold in the winter, shaking terribly. He just hand clutched his heart. He couldn't do it. He couldn't move. And I saw him. I'm going to help him do it. So he had his bike. He didn't know what to do because he couldn't even carry his bike. Here I am. I was so distraught. I didn't even bring my cane. I didn't even feel like I needed my cane. And before that, I couldn't even walk without it. And I said, don't worry. Lean on me. Grab that bike. Carry that bike. I carried that bike to a nearby store. And I called my other partner, tell him what's happening. They came. I said, can you stand? Can you walk? He says, yes. So he leans on me, and he's like, how can you do this? Now, I'm doing this for you. And we stayed there. We got in the trolley, and we got to the next bus stop. And I walked, carrying that bike and carrying his weight to that hospital. We stayed there. He's now fine. He's now fine. How many times I answered my prayer? Give me my body strength to do what it needs to do that it could do. And how many times I answered my prayer, even him. So prayer works. Prayer works. It doesn't have to be desperation, but it has to be prayer. And when you do that, no matter what, miracle.
Thank you. Yeah, amazing. I think only the human beings can pray. I don't know any other animals pray. I don't know pray monkeys or not, but we can pray. So it's very powerful. But when you like something happened, the emergency, immediately, like yesterday, innocent mentioned like "Konko-sama," just so worried, right? And teaching said, Isabel said, Tenchi Kami said, just Konko died and help me, and the Kami-sama will help you. So that's so you need to practice, I believe, because I was young and then my brother got sick. I couldn't pray. I don't have any concept to pray at the time. So do you have like a specific word you have every day you pray, and you create your own prayer, I believe. Can you share some of your prayer, Christine? If okay.
I was just speaking about this with someone yesterday and the day before. But I mentioned, I'll say it the way I always say it, is that like I feel like our words, like we say things that we sometimes don't really mean, but sometimes we don't have the words to say what we fully mean. Like, is what I would like to say. So I say like human words, no matter what language, sometimes can be a little bit clumsy in terms of what you truly want to express to kami-sama. So last year, actually, I told my professor this one because she's kind of spiritual, science professor, but I told her one of the prayers that I say, what I learned to start saying is, Kami-sama, please listen to the prayers of my heart because my words are too clumsy. And then I go silent and I just start breathing, doing like a slow and deep breathing, and let Kami-sama just like hear and feel my own heart because I mean even now it's like my words are like just a little jumbly but Kami-sama knows us in and out, if we're especially when we're honest. Kami-sama's like, oh, that's real, and oftentimes you don't have to speak, you just feel something. And Kami-sama's like, oh, I got you. Don't even worry about it, So that was my secret. Actually, Kami-sama, please listen to the sound of my heart because my words are too clumsy. And then another prayer that I say, they're all very simple because of that exact reason. I just say, Osewa, and then I leave it at that. And that's effectively the same thing for me. Or I just say, Osewa ni narimasu. Osewa ni natte. And then I go silent and I focus on what my prayer is without saying any words, trying not to add any words to it. And I let Kami-sama listen to me, and I listen to Kami-sama, and just discover the answers from there. And that's my communication, my relationship with Kami-sama. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you have something?
So I don't think I have a specific word. I'm not. Edna Sensei was like quick, and that thing was falling down last night. She's Konko-sama. I was like, what? I was like slow and delayed, and then I saw it falling down, and then my joke on that one was Kami-sama. She was thinking Kami-sama was trying to stop her from talking about her husband and his story. And I was like, no, that was actually Kami-sama trying to wake everybody up. But I don't know if I have a specific word that I use. I'm still growing in my faith. And whenever I see all of these senseis and their faith, it just always enlightens me and wants me to strive to be better, quicker, I know for some of these kids, they like to be competitive and they want to win and everything. Well, why don't you win in the practicing of faith? Try to beat Edna Sensei and saying Konko-sama before she does. That's going to be my challenge now. Or actually beating Yano Sensei too, because I think Edna was second. He was first. But, I wouldn't say it's just one word. I think it's just having that feeling in your heart. I don't necessarily say it at the moment, and it's more of, I think I see more appreciation, because it's usually like something will happen, and then it's that deep breath, and then after the fact, it's like, thank you, Kami-sama. I mean, I've been in an accident, or 3 accidents in 1 year. Same type of accident. I don't know what's going on, but I've been safe every single time, and it's just, I mean, I guess I do say it. It's just coming from his side, but I don't say it as quick as Edna can say it. When the car is coming to hit me, I see it. I don't yell, coming from it, like, I have to get hit. So, yeah, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, I do have a word. It's just, they do say Kami-sama, but it's not after the moment. I got to be quick. So my goal now is to beat Edna Sensei in saying, well, no, I say Kami-sama. She said Kunko Daijin. So, but it's to be fast.
Do I? See, I never did before. Normally just would say, I would say Kami-sama after the fact, but but with the breath. Because breath is how we live life. Breath is our nurturing point. We are alive because we breathe. And that is also a moment to give thanks, pray, those silent moments. So most times I will actually just say Kami-sama. And recently I started saying Koko-sama after listening to the podcast and the guidance from Rod Sensei. Just say Koko. Say Koko-sama. Because it's been moments when I've been extremely anxious, really upset, not knowing what to do. My brain can't think to formulate complex prayers that I normally be very wordy at times. But when I'm so stressed and I can't think, it's important to have that moment. Because in those moments, those simple words, they act as a focal point, chant. And those chants are prayers. They raise your vibration, be one in that moment. And whatever you truly, whatever you're truly, I mean, focus on, I only,
Thank you. Thank you. Lincoln.
I guess for my prayers, I think something that I try to do is I try to ask much more for permission. I think I've always been very okay at asking for permission for things in my daily life. Generally, it's more of a, hey, I'm going to do this. Is that fine? I'm not going to get in trouble for doing that, right? Much more than a real permission. But when I'm praying, I've tried to switch that up a lot more. Kami-sama, please allow me to be successful or have a safe trip, bond with other people. I try not to add as many qualifiers to that. Whatever it's going to look like, I will definitely accept that, but please allow me to have success in this, have whatever it is, instead of, hey, this is what I want, please make sure it happens. But to open myself up to whatever journey that is going to take me on, ask for that permission rather than that statement, I guess. And it's something that I'm still working on, definitely over time, definitely not the best at it. But that is something that I've been trying to transition to a lot more, especially in the last, let's say, few years, like through prayers or my faith or church or whatever.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So also Concord and the founder have everyday prayer, and there's a prayer. If you go to the Gorika, you see the founder's word, how he prayed. I'm not sure if he updated later or not, but I like to share that word. One of the members asked before, I asked Kami-sama about what you had requested the other day. So the member, a believer, asked him about the word prayer. Kami told me to write the prayer word for you. He gave me the following written prayer. Started with, Konko Daijin, Tenchikano no Kami, please deter unexpected disasters, robberies, fires, and other calamities. Please clear away any misfortune for those entering or leaving their unlucky year. These are so many prayers. After that, I have one page. But interesting enough to me because he said, Konko Daijin, Tenchikano no Kami. He is Konko Daijin. He is Konko Konko Daijin, right? But he mentioned that Konko Daijin. And other teachings, Konko-sama repeatedly said Konko-sama, 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 and then started his word prayer, and repeatedly, any kind of prayer he did, and it repeated. So that we talked about Toritsugi yesterday. So it's kind of interesting. He himself, he's a Toritsugi immediate founder, but he tried to receive Toritsugi through prayer, I believe. That's why he said Konko died very first. concordai, not tentacle kami, but concordai and tentacle. Very interesting. So have you ever have tried to incorporate your prayer in a 360? You have any thought before like prayer and 360 should be like merged or one or, we pray.
I pray every time I do Torah Sugi. Every single time I will come to my ministry and I will say, no matter what, I'll tell them the problems. I tell them, I expose my whole heart. I expose every different struggle, every different triumph, everything. There's nothing that I hide from them. And then I pray with them wholeheartedly. And they're praying with me, and that connection between them is what creates the unification. And I'm really proud of that. Sometimes those prayers may not be direct prayers and sitting down and clapping together and praying together. But other times those prayers are just our hearts united. And that's really good to be able to know that you had that experience. So I encourage every single one of you to find your ministry, find your sense. Look up to them for guidance because they're willing to be there. They're there for you. They're there to support the community. They're the agents of change in our faith. Go to them. Let them guide you. And let them help you pray.
John?
I kind of lost the question. But um, I'm probably just going to answer whatever comes to my head, but maybe not directly to that. But when I speak 42B mediation, uh, I try to practice. I'm not as strong in doing 42B mediation all the time, but I make an effort to do it, and usually my family is waiting around for me. I'm always off. But I think more of what I always try to do is show a lot of appreciation first. And, I'll talk with Koya Sensei about, any kind of thing that's going on. Most recently, I've been having kind of thing going on with my neck. Don't know what it was. I started to pray with Koya Sensei on it. I went to the doctor. They checked everything out. Don't see anything. I feel something. We don't see it. And I kind of didn't believe my doctor or anything like that because sometimes, they're just doing their thing. But he told me, and I said, well, can't you run like a CT scan or something on my neck? And the doctor recommended. He was like, no, you don't. You've had one 3 or 4 years ago. You don't want to have another one, not have necessary. Have what So I just kept praying. And coming up to the conference, I was kind of worried and concerned things might go worse, whatever. But it hasn't. I'm here. I'm able to speak with all of them. And, it's kind of been getting better, or, I'm not really noticing it as much anymore. And then even speaking with Enna Sensei, who's a nurse, made a comment. My doctor saying that. She was, oh, yeah, you don't do that. That's like absorbing, that my own personal way of doing things would have costed me about, I think Nurse was saying about 500 x-rays per patient. And, my doctor was telling me something. Kind of, he doesn't know. Also, hearing it from Enna, I'm like, okay, now I got 2 people telling me the same thing. Always said, listen a little bit and have faith. And I think through my prayers, it's been getting better. It hasn't really been bothering me. But it's just a realization, you do need to practice, put out the prayers. And so,
Thank you. We have a prayer book. Yeah? This is a Tenchi Kakisuke. And it goes, 生き神根高大天天地神の神。一心に願いおかげを我が心にあり、今月今日データ目指す Japanese portion. And before this, we have a other prayer book, and it goes through 生き神根高大天 to 天地神の神. So I think that's almost like a reciting Tenchi Kakisuke is like having 30 meditation, asking 30 meditation to 神様 through 生き神根高大天 to recite through 生き神根高大天 to 天地神の神. Just like founders prayer, Concordat Intensity, please, Peter, blah. So I think that this prayer book is very important for us. So I like to ask all of you do you use this? Do you have this prayer at home, and do you pray? You open at home, and you have a special dedicated time to recite this prayer? Lincoln?
I do have that at home. It's in a specific spot. I would say that it's not something that I often open at home. I think my prayers at home are much more on my own time, my own thoughts, my own feelings at the time. When it comes to being at the church or being here when we're doing specific prayers, I definitely do think that I have a lot of different things in mind depending on what we're doing. Have certain things that you'd like to talk about during the study. I always have something in the back of my mind, whether it be something for a prevent or something that I'm going through. The thoughts and feelings that I have when I'm studying prayers definitely change them. But when I'm at home, I would say that it's a lot more of a conversation, free-flowing conversation. And I think for myself, it is a lot easier for me to use my own words, describe things or make requests or apologize or whatever it may be, rather than adding my own feelings and whatnot to the written prayer. For myself, it just makes it a lot easier to be clear about what I'm thinking about, what I'm going through. But it is always something that is in the back of my mind or my heart when I'm going through.
That was Christian.
Yeah, so I have the prayer book at my house. I don't, I have to tell you the truth, yeah, I rarely open it, but I do have a list of prayers. I have them on my phone. I call it daily prayers, but I don't even get to do it daily. I try to do it as often as I can, where it's a list of prayers that are like directly from my heart that I've spent years and years thinking about, like my true self and like my true desires in the world and for the world. And I've tried to write them down in a very straightforward, linear fashion as succinctly as possible. And I go through those maybe like 4 or 5 times a week. And before I go through those, though, I do the Tenshikitsuke because it's still based on that, still based on my 18. And so, yeah, I go through the whole Ikigami Kokodai Tenshikami no Kami prayer before I go into my other prayers. But I have a long list of prayers. Like there's like 7 or 8 of them. I don't even get to all of those. But I do enough to get my emotions into the right place of, okay, just to remind myself of Kami-sama and my relationship with Kami-sama, and then who I am on a very personal, fundamental basis, as far as I can come to rationalize and discover who I am up to this point in my life, and that slowly changes over time, but really refining down who I am and like what my heart is saying over what my head is always saying, because like we're mind, body, and spiritual beings. And so trying to understand all of these parts of myself and discover my own like personal recipe for success for my life is what these prayers are about. But I always started with the Tenchi Kakitsuke because that is the Tenchi Kakitsuke that really brought me to even sort of think deeply on this level of, well, if I'm going to have a strong relationship with Kami-sama and be successful in the world, I have to be Ishi. And then the other part, like having the wagakokoro, right? Because oh, having a joyful, harmonious heart, and that is a harmonious heart with myself. You know, it's like um, it's easy to say, but like I discovered that in my life. You know, I think probably for a lot of people, some desires, some things that we think we desire aren't even necessarily our own like desires, our own uh, personal goals. You know, they were like sort of pushed on us by like our family members or or friends or family or whatever it is. You know, and we think we want these things, but then and we get them and we have them, whether it be like a certain kind of career, and then you realize, well, I didn't really want this, but my parents always pushed me in this direction. Now here I am. I'm not happy, but I do it anyway. And but your heart's always calling out, like, there's something else. You know, usually it's like something in art or science. Something more gratifying. But like, I'm not here to say what's better or worse, but it's all based on coming back to your own heart, because I feel like children, especially children, they don't know how to uh, be fake. It's like they say what they mean. If they want something, they're screaming for it. It's like, and in a way, our hearts are always doing that, but we learn to like temp it down as we get older. We fit in with society, but our heart is always calling. And that's Kami-sama saying, hey, this is who you are. And Kami-sama wants to connect with that heart that's calling out, please, like, be yourself. And it's from there that's the harmonious heart. And with that harmony with yourself, Kami-sama, the joy comes back to your life, and with that, then the blessings start to manifest. And so that's I guess that's the premise of what my prayers that I've written that are very personal to me, that I go through a couple of times a week, are based on. But I don't usually open up the book that often, but I definitely in church, and probably like 2 other times during the week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bree, you have
So for me, I open up a prayer book right now. One of the things that's important to me when I do my prayers, I still, like the sacred dates, open my prayer book every month on the 1st, 10th, and 22nd to honor Konpo Daijin, Kami-sama, and our Mitama ancestors at home. And then, of course, every week during church service. But normally outside of that, I've memorized most of the prayers in the prayer book. It's just I know them by heart and I recite them daily. And every time I do my personal prayers, I start with gratitude. Gratitude is the first thing I pray about, no matter what I do, because I'm grateful constantly. I'm grateful for every little blessing that I receive, big or small. I try to focus my mind to every day, remember, like, what's the biggest blessing? What's the smallest blessing that happens? Everything in between. Even getting up, waking up in the morning or going to the bathroom, being able to take a shower, and more so, one of my favorite blessings, someone smiling. One of the best blessings, a genuine heart. And every time I pray gratitude, and then I end my prayers with Penchakis every single time, Japanese and English, every single time. I used to pray with Penchakis first, because I felt like at the end of Penchakis, it says, on this very day, pray, and then you would pray. But then I realized, oh, I pray before that, and then edit the kind of ending that the Penchakis. I remember it. I remember it. It does not matter what time of day it is, how tired I am. If I'm doing a prayer, I will always end it with.
So I'll be honest, I don't have the new prayer. I still have the brown one. I use the blue one when I go to church, but my main prayer that I always use at home is just the recitation of the Ten Shukai. And of course, I have the Ten Shukai on my wall, and words are there, but I mean, I do, of course, that's something that I memorized, but I try to make a night practice. We say daily. Mine's night. I have a nightly practice where just before I go to sleep, I kind of reflect on things that have gone on throughout the day, and most of the time it's just appreciation. I try to go back through a whole bunch of thanks for this, thanks for that, thanks for this, thanks for that, and then a lot of reflection on our Mitama spirit, our ancestral spirit. You know, losing friends, family. I know they're all, and just giving a lot of thanks. And then if during that time there is something for me to pray for, then I'll make that prayer. But my nightly routine is, reciting the Tanchakya and then giving thanks for everything that I think of throughout the day. And a lot of times trying to pray for other people if I've heard of their stories, something if they need to kind of pass their message along to Kami-sama. And then comes if I have something in my situation you need. I guess I'm pretty selective. I don't want to, ask for everything all the time. I want to kind of hold off on the things I think that are, I always tell my kids that there's needs and wants. People want all kinds of things if you really need them. I think that goes the same thing for my requests. Do I really need some of these, or do I want these requests, or do you really need these requests? And so I try to reserve what I'm asking for. So mainly, it's a lot about just showing appreciation. What is my wrong?
Thank you. The prayer book, I think, was founded 100 years members. The Go Home headquarters created this Konkokyo style prayer. Before, we have like Amas Norito or Barakani, also some prayer. But it was Showa 58 年. So it was like 1983-ish. And then we have an English version. So I like to ask, like when I was a child, if memorized prayer, I was, oh, you're good, you memorize, And I think the most of the sensei recited, even the officiant, with that prayer book, so we should memorize. But later it changed, so all ministers hold the prayer book as the officiant. And because if we memorize, you like the chanting, you don't see the meaning of the prayer. So instead, you want to read, you want to understand while praying. That's my understanding. That's why they encourage to hold the prayer book while you recite. And maybe you know that Konko Daijin, in praise Konko Daijin, translate to later, for most of the prayer translate with. And I like to ask how do you like this English prayer? Because when I was child, I don't like Kami prayer because long. I love Shinto Kanji because short. But when read Kami prayer, it's so nice, when you read in Japanese. So I'd like to hear how you like the prayer book, prayer. Lincoln, you may have experience because you're reading also, you have more opportunity maybe.
I only know that English prayer book. I wasn't alive. Uh, uh, sorry, it's out of the room. But I do really enjoy it. I think there was something where when I first memorized one of the prayers, really big moment. Yes, I did it. I can memorize it when we're at camp and out and about. I don't pull up my book right away, I'm lagging behind or anything. But I do really appreciate getting to read them more in depth, and I think kind of I mentioned earlier that I think of different things depending on when I'm praying and reciting different prayers. So a lot of times there's different words that will stick out to me, or there's different things that I'll notice. depending on when I'm reading them. And that does really help me with their prayer book. And I do really appreciate that we have in front of us. A lot of us probably say most of people do often from memory is that when I'm doing it from memory, I don't really have different words that stick out to me each time versus when I'm reading it, going through, oh, this feels more like going on today, or this makes a lot more sense this time. That is something that really does help.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, similar to Lincoln, um, when holding the prayer book as we recite it, it's like a different word will pop out or a different phrase, just like maybe the intonation that like I happen to say it on that time, or like maybe somebody next to me says it. Um, it feels like, oh yeah, that's actually what I'm going through right now, or oh that could help someone that I'm working with currently. Yeah, so it's really nice to have that prayer book while reciting it, because yeah, different words will stick out at different times, and well, yeah, when we're via rote, it's very much just like, well, however my brain knows it. The last time I read it is that's exactly what I'm how I'm reciting it as I recite from memory. So yeah, it's nice to have the prayer book, and yeah, the different words will stick out, and then when I'm reading like a certain word that'll stick out, it's like I think of the meaning in like maybe two or three different ways. Oh, whoa, I didn't really think of it before, but yeah, that's going to help a lot more, and then it actually reinforces my memory of the prayer, because now it's like it becomes like a tree. It's like a slowly growing tree every time you recite it with the prayer book in front of me. Um, because now when I say a tree, I mean like I'm basically adding new words to each word within the prayer book, and some words in my mind within the prayer within a prayer have like two words attached to it. Others have like five words attached to it in my mind, and so in this way, when I think about it like this, that's adding value to each word, and you're adding more value to each word. That's adding more value to the prayer, and then so it's just like each prayer is like a growing tree in my heart, in my mind, and I think and in a way, that's a way to measure, sort of measure. I mean, maybe you shouldn't be measuring faith, but in a way, I think that's a way to sort of see the growth and compare, like, I can easily compare myself to this year, how I am now, and how much my faith has grown compared to last year, when I didn't even really understand a lot of the words and how they're put together as much as I do now. Like, wow, these are very rich, and there's a lot more insight than what's even on the surface of just the words that we see, especially probably in English too, because I feel like some English words we have so many options, but it's probably not so easy to just smash them together like in a kanji and then come up with a completely new word, that has even way more meaning just in that one word. It's like we would have to typically add multiple English words together in a string of words. Um, but yeah, yeah. Did I even answer the question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Ray, how about you?
Even though I've memorized a lot of the prayers in the prayer book, there's something so sick when you hold the prayer books dedicated, that everybody dedicated to really supporting and making these prayers as rich and vibrant as they are. And every single one of these prayers, there's layers and meanings to it. I carry my prayer books around with me in my gorka, and when I'm really stressed out, I sleep with them on my pillow. Hold, like, I hold them close to my chest. I know that I'm being healed by them, even if I'm reading them right. And when I do read them, when I hold them, I feel like a wash, sacred prayer on me. Okay, this moment, focus. And even though I've memorized them, when I'm saying them, when I'm reading them through the book, I feel my body tremor, that there's a spotlight on me, like passing through my head, filling my body with illuminated light at the same time. And every single time I read the book, the Kami prayer and the prayer of Kokodaijen and the mediation prayer and the adoration prayer and the prayer for peace and the ancestral prayer, I'm praying for someone else. I'm dedicating prayer to a new person every time I pray. Because when you dedicate a prayer to someone, you dedicate it to their heart and spirit, you're no longer just praying for you, you're praying for them, that connection, that web. Like, hey, are you praying for me? Because no, I was really thinking about you, and I feel a lot better. Because every single one of these prayers was put forth by the hard work, dedicated, complete. Wasn't this just some random person put through chat? This was work. Every single word was meticulously thought after, decided on. If for no other reason than to honor the work that was put, isn't it worth dedicating these weeks? Isn't it worth saying this is something important enough to really care about? Isn't it worth that dedication that we all show back in that all?
Man, why you guys put me right after Rin? I've been here many years, and she's, I don't know how long it's been, but, well, she's, okay, so she hasn't been here longer than me, but her faith is way deeper than mine, so I have a lot of catching up to do. I also need a new book. But, aside from that, what all of the panel members said, I totally agree. And when I was thinking about this as they were speaking, I was like, reading the prayers do make and mean a difference. I know when I'm at the church and I'm reading the prayer, and you guys might all feel the same way. You're just reading the prayer, and then all of a sudden, you get to one word, and that word hits for that day, And so I always look at it. I stumble on the prayers every so often, and I've always wondered why. It's like, I have this memorized. Why do I lose my place? Why? And then it's like I'm reading it. It's right in front of me, but I can't even read it right, and I make a mistake. And it just came to me now. It's like, you know what? I have a feeling that when all of us make that mistake, because I'm sure we all done it, where you come through the prayer and you just stop for a reason. That moment is probably that your mind, your body, your heart probably was reading through that prayer, and then it just got distracted by that one word or one phrase you might have read, and you subconsciously thought about that split second too long, and the prayer, everybody's kept going, and then you notice, oh, I think that's, if you've ever experienced that in your, during service, whatever, where you get caught not being on pace with everybody else, I was just thinking, I was like, how come I always get caught up with them? I was like, you know what it is? Because I'm looking at the word. Sometimes I see one word and I'll, oh yeah, and then I'm behind. Now it all kind of makes sense, why so many of us maybe make mistakes, pause when we're doing those prayers. And specifically rereading them, is you're probably getting hit with that thought of what that word, what that phrase, that line was. That probably was the one that resonated a little bit longer. And so your brain had to stop. So I wouldn't say, please look at your neighbors, and when you hear them pause, yeah, they just have conversation right there. But yeah, and I think one of the things too that, reading the prayers is, reading it by yourself and reading it at home is different, but reading it together and hearing voices, everyone together, just makes it much more I don't know, I feel like when I am at the conference and I hear everybody saying the prayer, I feel heart, energy. So, I I mean, I have a loud voice to begin with, but I purposefully try to say it louder than the people next to me. I'm like, I want to overpower them. So now I challenge everybody else too. Overpower me. Let's make our prayers be heard. Let's make our voice.
Thank you. You know, we have many years ago, we have head ministers gathering at home headquarters, and 100, 200 head ministers gather, and we have a morning prayer session, or something like that. So all ministers, head ministers, told that that's so powerful. Each head minister, most of the church have a daily prayer services session and recite. Most of the Japanese and they recite Japanese prayer aloud. Doesn't matter who's there, maybe by himself, herself, or maybe with members, or recite. So that's so powerful. And all together, it's like a professional reciter was there, 100, 200 people together. It was so powerful. I agree that the other sensei that, well, that's so powerful. And the English part maybe a little bit different because how you English and Japanese is different, right? But still, I think it's important. Have you ever heard like Otodama in Japanese? Otodama is once you say aloud, the word become like spirit. So once you say out loud, that's I think big difference between ChatGPT versus human. Once you recite, I think that's become Otodama, so become powerful. So once you recite continuously, the word become more powerful ability, like prayer, Japanese prayer, like Obara, even Obara in other Shinto prayer. So many people recite the same phrase over and over, so it becomes so powerful. We feel even that book, we can think the book itself can have power, the spirituality. So that's why I believe important to gather together and recite prayer all together at the church. And also, the prayer affects your body. It's like, saying thank you to the water and the body too, right? Because most of the body is contained in water. I think apply the same in the prayer. We recite, and our body observes prayer, and also church itself think observe our prayer. That's why the prayer make the church special, and the church became special, and that church atmosphere affects us. So that's the ayokake to me. Once you pray aloud, the church, even the silent prayer too, and the church became more special for us. So that's how I felt. But the founder himself, when he was a farmer, and he started pray for his family members, himself, or his family got sick, pray. He called the professional shrine temples, and then he became pretty immediate. His prayer kind of expanded, not only his family, but community, the people who come to seek spiritual mediation, and even like the world. He's just farmer in Otani, very small village, 500 people live there. And he didn't have any opportunity, only 2 times, right? It's more than that. Isemairi and Tomonoura and Shikoku Kompirasan. But he doesn't have too much opportunity to see world. But he starts to pray for world, not only Japan, the world. So that's gradually expand. I'd like to ask you though, how you started. You start to pray, and you feel like expanding your prayer to the world. Because you mentioned that you pray for somebody else. Do you have any experience that you praying for somebody else, or you felt somebody else to pray? I I met the one member of Japan, church member of Japan. He said he prayed every day for all churches in the world. You know how many churches, Konko churches in the world? For now, about 1,500 churches now. It'll be but it takes time just recite the church name and the minister's name. What he did he said section by section. So every day 300 churches, so maybe, you know. So we, including us, I'm not sure he's still alive or not, but we receiving prayer. Even I was a prime minister in the Japan church, and one of the member approached Keka and asked, uh, please pray for Hawaii church's member. Never know you pray for people in Hawaii member churches. So we receive prayer even though we don't know. So, however, pray for somebody else, and I know you pray, but or tell prayer for somebody else. Deacon?
I would say that I pray for people all the time who really have the same thing for me. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I pray at work a lot of times. For those who don't know, I work in genetics. I work as kind of a counselor for people that are either recently diagnosed with cancer or have a lot of family members that are very close to them that are affected there. And it's a very stressful situation for them. Some people come in with being diagnosed for only a couple days, or some people have been watching multiple family members, taking care of them, going through all of these experiences, which is really stressful for them, of course. And I always pray for them that they will have good health or that they will be supported throughout this process. And something that a lot of people always say is they always say, oh, like, pray that everything's negative, pray that everything's fine, that we're going to get the answer that we want. So there's no extra risk, there's no extra things that they need to do. And I definitely did that for a little while. And then after a while, I felt like that wasn't always the right thing to be praying for. And so I feel like now I pray much more for their health, for them to live a happy, fulfilling life, whatever that might look for them. For some people, it might be that there is these other risks that are going on, but maybe that does lead them to a much more effective treatment. I've seen people that we bring their families together, and it's the first time that they've been together in the same room in years, and it's this kind of terrible thing that I don't wish for anybody, but they still are able to get a lot out of it. And whether that means that they get this experience for them in the next 15, 20 years of their life, or for some people even in just the next few weeks, I think that it's been really beneficial for me to be able to see, and it makes me kind of feel a lot better and feel a lot more hopeful that I'm able to help and support the people that are there in front of me.
John, your turn.
So praying for people, it's like, I try to pray for people as much as I can, especially when it comes to me, where I hear things from them or for them. And especially if somebody says, hey, can you pray for me? Yeah, I put them in my prayers. Sometimes I get puzzled and joke, though, because, most of my friends are like Christians, Catholics, or whatever, and when they say, can you pray for me? I'm like, yeah, but I'm praying to Kami-sama. I don't know what their relation is, but, my prayers are through Uncle Daijin, Kami-sama. And I do make those prayers, whether they wanted it or not, that's what they want me to pray. And I'm going to give Uncle Daijin, Kami-sama for their help. Throughout the years, I have prayed for, coworkers, friends, and they have, recovered and have some, I'd say to me, they receive divine blessing, whether they realize it or not. But yeah, I think the power of prayer definitely helps. And, it definitely helps when everybody or other people help pray for you too, because, like Sensei's saying is, you can pray for yourself, but that's just one person praying for you. If you go to Toritugi mediation, you have the prayer that the Sensei there to help pray for you too. And if you have the whole community, a lot definitely, if somebody's, asking for your help, pray for them. It's all of 10 seconds maybe of your day to add somebody else's prayer. So I say just when you get that time, take that opportunity.
So I already stated that I pray for the people. When it's somebody I know and I don't know how they would feel about praying for them, I ask first. I said, do I have permission to pray for you? So I believe consent is a very important thing. Most times they will say, yes, yes, you can pray for me. If it's someone I don't know, give them prayers anyway. Not because I don't think that they deserve consent, because they don't know me, I don't know them, but I do know that everyone needs help. We don't do anything in this world alone. We don't do a single thing in this world alone. So we all need a little, need not even a little help. We all need a lot. Even if you think about it, there are a lot of people who say that they're self-made. But did your parents or grandparents or your aunts or uncles raise you? Did someone deliver you when you were in the hospital? How did you grow up? How did you get clothes? How did you get food? Someone was helped in every single step of their life. You were helped. Now, whether or not you want to acknowledge that is a different thing. I believe that people pray for me constantly. That's why no matter what hardship I go through, I receive so many blessings. Because a lot of times I used to not pray for myself. I used to just pray for other people because that's what made me feel fulfilled. Being that voice for someone else, knowing that I'm going to do everything I possibly can for them. It filled my body with a luminescence that I never would have experienced otherwise. To pray for someone else made me feel fulfilled. So someone says, you have to pray for you too because you're a person too that needs help. So a higher self in myself, that spirit that I'm surprised when I don't acknowledge, give myself time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I pray for you too. Pray for us to heal now. I'll be better. I'll be better because I know you deserve better. And if I can give that kindness and love to someone else so wholeheartedly, I have to give it to myself too. My prayers will always include someone else. That is my first person I think of before I start praying for myself. I pray for someone because everybody needs help. And even if I can't physically be there, my spirit helps.
Thank you. Thank you. Christian.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like my prayers are most effective when I've gathered the energy, I guess, and from the energy comes from, once again, like having a harmonious heart. So one of my personal prayers that I've written is a prayer for other people. But I feel like I would have the most effectiveness if I know the person. So like, or if I can if I feel the energy and how do I say it, sincerity arising within me of like a certain energy. So like back when I hate to bring this up now, but back when the Russia-Ukraine war started, like my heart was broken because I had always been concerned about that kind of thing for a good majority of my life. And so when that all started to happen, I immediately started praying for the people in Ukraine. Um, and I felt like my prayers. I feel like in those moments where it's like I have a strong connection, that my prayers will be effective in some way, on some capacity. I can, we can't really measure that kind of thing, but I try to pray for people as often as I can, especially for the people that I know of. And I used to go down like an entire list of like family members, friends, and and colleagues, etc. But now I focus on the ones that I know are going through something at that moment, and so I tend to have longer prayers even while I'm at the church. But that's not even before praying at home for some loved one. Um, in a very heartfelt manner, and then of course for myself as well, which for the longest time too in my life, I I had overlooked the fact that, yeah, I too, like Brendan was saying, that I too am a person. I remember there was a point where like, it hit me, like, they always say do things for others. So like my early life was very much based on that. And, I had, and I still do, working hard to help others, pray for others, that kind of thing. But then one day, I looked in the mirror and I was like, who's that? I was like, wait. And like it hit me. Oh God, wait, I'm a person. Like it was almost very confusing. I was like, wait, I'm a person too. Like maybe like and I know my mom is a praying person. Like she will wake up at 5 a.m. every day, and she goes through a long list of prayers as well, and she prays for like 2 hours every for, like for the world, for her family, for herself, for everything. But that time, yeah, it hit me. I think I was 22 years old. And it hit me. I'm a person too, and so I need to start taking care of myself. Um, and since then, yeah, it's like a lot of my prayers have been mostly focused on just getting myself back to a place where I can be uh, stable in my own mental health and my own physical health in order to be helpful to others. So I find myself praying a lot for myself in order to be more helpful to others. And so like I feel like it all comes full circle in some way. And it also took me a while too to pray for myself for that reason because like I think if I become more skilled and and like arrogance and that kind of thing might take over. But my track record showed me that it's like I have a good I've recognized that I have a good heart. I want to help others. So if I were to become smarter, stronger, and do things for myself, I'm going to give back, And so then I started to ask Kami-sama, please help me so I can help others. Is another one of my special prayers that I pray often. Because Kami-sama knows my heart, It's like Kami-sama knows I want to be more effective for others so they can help others and bring a more harmonious world. And so yeah, I pray for myself, for others, and I do pray for others directly, especially in acute situations like the current turmoil that's happening in the world. That we try to uh, yeah keep ourselves level-headed about. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the founder's teaching goes repeatedly apologize for people's offenses and irreverence and pray for everything, including the government and the health of his believers. And also Kamisama told him to, Kamisama instructed Konko to make and put up a banner saying, may there be peace throughout the world, prosperity in all countries, and safety for all people, and pray daily. So that's our founder's prayer, and all second Konko-sama, third Konko-sama, first Konko-sama, fifth Konko-sama. So all is still Konko-sama. We are praying for peace and human salvation. So it's about 11:30. We go to Sunday. Oh, Lincoln. Audience question. If you have a question, raise your hand and the paper. But while you're writing, I can share the one poem. Prayer. The title is Prayer, and they're composed by Reverend Hideko Konko. I like to read. I pray to Kami-sama, the divine parent of the universe. I present my request. Please, Kami-sama, bring my request to fruition. But even before I pray, Kami-sama already knows my prayers, and it seems that many requests are not answered. If that is the case, then why should I pray? Why should prayer be so important to me? The reason is to prepare my heart. Even though the favor granted by Kami-sama may be different from what I asked for, what Kami-sama grant me is for the sake of creating a heart that can appreciate Kami-sama's favor. I pray to Kami-sama. Kami-sama always grants me a favor that I have asked for, which is far more than I prayed for. I pray to Kami-sama. So I give my prayers to Kami-sama for the sake of putting my heart in order. I pray. If it goes Japanese, 祈る。私は神に祈る。私の願いを祈る。神様、どうぞ願いを叶えてくださいと。でも神様は私が祈る前から私の願いはすでにご存知。そして叶わぬことも多い。だったら私はなぜ祈る？なぜ私に祈りは必要なの？それは私の心を整えるため。神様が与えてくださるものが私の願いと違っても、神様が与えてくださったものをありがたくいただく私の心を作るため、私は神に祈る。そして神様はいつも願った以上のありがたいものを私に与えてくださる。私は神に祈る。私の願いを祈る。私の心を整えるため、私は祈る。So that's the point. I think very interesting, powerful that I have a same feeling that I think Kami-sama should know my prayer already, what I want to, but why I have to pray if Kami-sama knows my prayer? But still we cannot help but pray to Kami-sama because this teaching goes that for us to make our heart and we can receive more blessing. But it's so hard to read today. What would it take to make daily face actions a higher priority in your life? What would take to make daily face actions a higher priority in your life?
So I think question? I have to. So the question is, what would it take to make daily faith actions a higher priority in your life? I think that's all on each individual's personal stage and growth. We're all at different levels of faith and different levels of growth, and I think that's part of the Konko faith is you continue to grow, you continue to learn, continue to strengthen, broaden your faith. And they said, what would it take to make that daily faith action? It's you. It's your kokoro. You got to find out what's going to work for you and how much you can handle. They've always said jumping headfirst into something is not going to work. I mean, going 100% praying for an hour every day is probably going to fail for most. It's like going to the gym, the doctor tells you something's wrong, go to the gym. So you go and do 5 hours at the gym. That's only going to last a month. But small steps, do 15-minute walks every day. That is a start. Same with your faith. I think just having a small prayer every day is just that start. And I think those are the actions you can take to make it a higher.
To answer the same question, I think the first step that starts with is gratitude. In our Konko faith, our heart is the most important thing. Prayer is important, of course, but our first step is to always be our heart. So if you find yourself, you kind of get stuck, whether or not knowing what to pray for, the very smallest action you can take breath and start listing off things you're grateful for. List off tons of things you're grateful for. List thousands of things you're grateful for. And every time you say grateful for it, I'm grateful for it and thank you. I'm grateful for it and for this and thank you. That's just this, and you can just start with 3 one day, 5, 10, 15, 20, and increase it. And the thing about gratitude is the more that you are grateful, you start looking for more ways to be grateful. You start looking for more things to say. And it starts happening over and over and over again, that gratitude practice. And then you're like, you know what? I feel really good because when the faith hits, it's all about our heart, right? Especially in our joy and harmony, right? And when you're grateful, your prayers comes from, and when you have that joyous heart, you're able to do the most amazing mountains, the heart. So if you want to start your faith, start gratitude, start gratitude, and then move.
Ano?
I definitely agree with the other thing that I would add, being able to forgive yourself. One of the big things for any new habit or any life change is that it's really easy to be discouraged whenever you misstep or whenever you mistake. And so one of the biggest things is to forgive yourself. Your goal is to pray every single day already. You missed a day. Not to beat yourself up over missing that day, but to acknowledge that maybe you got the other 6 days, the next day you prove that. And I think whenever it comes to making a big change priorities, that's one of the big things that we all make mistakes, not easy things to change. So allow yourself the space, forgiveness, that it's okay and work on it.
It's making making faith more. Hmm. Making the actions of faith a greater priority in your life. Yeah, I would say like what Ren was saying. Like start with just something you're thankful for, and also like John was saying, don't overdo it. So I know one method I used actually a while ago to get myself to exercise at all, because I tend to be lazy when it comes to exercise. I would literally just do one push-up a day. That was my goal. I'm like, okay, Chris, at the very least, just one push-up a day. And so I did that for a year. But then I realized, like, after about a week, like, I couldn't just do one push-up. I'm like, okay, all right, two push-ups. But don't, no more than that, okay? So I would do one in the morning, and then I would do one at night. And then, like, after another week, I'm like, dang, I think I can do some more. So, like, it didn't even take that long. I was already doing, I was like, okay, 5 in the morning, 5 at night. And then it was like then 10 in the morning, then 10 at night. And this was all like, it was a more like natural progression because my muscles were bored. And it was like, okay, well, maybe I can just do some more then because I got all this extra energy. And then by the end of that year, I was doing about 80 push-ups in the morning and 80 push-ups at night. And I was like, and it was easy too. Like, and that's when I just like started to understand like how muscles grow. And I'm like, oh, it's just like, it's not supposed to necessarily be hard, but there's a consistency of pushing at least to your own limit and doing that on a daily basis. So whatever action you can take of like being thankful for at least one thing every day. It's something that not even necessarily a small thing, but if that's where you're at. But like imagine something that you're the most thankful about in your life. Maybe even if it's for that day, just imagine that and just be and then say, thank you for that. Thank you for, thank you for my mom, or, thank you for this house. I'm so grateful I have this gorgeous house, or a place to stay in at all. But I tend to focus on like that energy, like generating the most sincere energy you can based on what you have, and that sort of shows you where your faith is at that moment. And so like once again, if you're very thankful for your house, focus on being grateful for your house. and say, thank you, Kami-sama, Konko Daikin, for giving me this house, And if you have to say that the next day, then say it the next day, but say it sincerely with all your heart, with with everything you can muster within your intangible being, intangible self, say thank you so much, thank you for this, thank you for this thing, these people, whatever it is, and just do that once a day, whatever the most thankful about, just once a day, just focus on that for a minute, 2 minutes, whatever you can muster, and keep it keep it consistent, and then eventually over time, slowly you'll realize, wait, I'm also thankful for the people that I met that helped me to get to this place, and then you'll say thank you for people and thank you for the place, and then you sort of expand from there. I'm also thankful for the people who took me to that place, that I've met those people that brought me to this thing and then you sort of build out a network, a tree of things you're grateful for, and then you start to realize, wait, you start to have like a sort of framework that you build out for yourself, where now you're always thanking people or being thankful in threes, and then that starts to basically exponentiate, where you're like, okay, now I'm thankful for these three things, and I'm thankful for those three things, and then then that builds up time. Okay, I'm thankful for these three things, those three things, those three, and those three, and then it starts to grow, but it grows naturally. But you have to start with the thing that you're the most grateful for, and then let that expand. And you start to realize that you're more grateful. Well, you have more things to be grateful for, but if you don't recognize the thing that you're already grateful for without acknowledging it, then it sort of gets blown into the wind, and I feel like we lose out on a lot of life, a lot of life lived, if we don't acknowledge the things we're grateful for. But I feel like that's a very fundamental faith practice that's easy to do. I can say it's easy to say and talk about, and it's also easy to do, I think. But just start there. Just start simple. One thing you're very, very grateful for.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have only like 20 minutes, so we have like 6 questions. I'd like to go quick. So how many other phases have you practiced or considered? Why do you choose Kung Fu?
I'll go really quick. I've dabbled in all the other faiths. I wouldn't say I dabbled in all faiths. I'm always open to faith and understanding and learning. Growing up, all of my friends growing around me were Filipino, and Asian, and they were all Christians, Catholics. I would spend the night at their house, and I wake up on Sunday, and they'd like, hey, we're going to church. Want to go? I'm like, okay, I would go. But at the same time, I was always growing up in the church, go to church, my parents and grandparents, every, New Year's. It just felt like home. I never felt like I was part of the other church. I just that, but oh yeah. So I've went through a lot of them. I learned, but I think it's just that realization, personal realization, coming to the conference, to the course, and finding that it just fits. That feeling, when I walked into those other, I didn't have that. And I could go on a long time, but I had a few experiences where they were pretty, what I say it, excluding. They were. Now I'm gonna say it. I went to one of the Catholic church and they were handing out union, I think it's called, or the bread of. And I went up, and then the guy was handing it to me. The priest was handing it to me, and he pulled it back and says, and I said, no, arms. And I was like, hey. So to me, that was kind of like, yeah, I couldn't accept whatever they were offering, even though I put myself up there trying to be respectful. I just thought that wasn't And, Kung Fu Kill has never done that. We don't do it anymore, but I used to get sake from the sensei, all the time, and I was like, kind of cool. But yeah, that's why I like the Kung Fu.
Five different other faith beliefs where I found Kung Fu. And the first one I started with was Christianity. I was raised in Christianity. I was born in Christianity. I almost drowned, and when I was getting baptized, speaking of baptism, I almost drowned. I felt like that felt pulled from underneath me when I was getting baptized. I hit the back of my head, and they couldn't find me in the dark water, so I almost drowned. It was a sign. The next one was Wicca. I studied Wicca for a long period of time. I like the cycle of between nature and religion. But the thing is, there was no structure to it, even though there was a lot of different things about Wicca I love, but didn't feel right. Didn't feel right. I practiced that for a long period of time on my own, paganism. Buddhism, studied Buddhism for a little bit of time, basically mostly a lot of the meditation techniques. There was a scandal in the sect of Buddhism I was part of, with the leaders doing some very heinous things, and so I'm glad I didn't stay there. And then I started continuing the path of paganism, continuing that. I started doing Oba druidry. I was a part of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. I still am an official member of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. But what got me to Konko was I was experiencing silence and all the other stuff I was studied. And Kami-sama moved right in, a really big force in my life. So massive, so big, couldn't ignore it. Nothing could be Kami-sama. No force could stop Kami-sama. And guided me here. It wasn't an accident. I wasn't delusional. I felt Kami-sama. I heard Kami-sama. Kami-sama pulled me here. You're going to be okay. And even if I never decided to continue practicing the Konko faith, I would still be with Kami-sama. But see, the faith grew on me from the connection of the people in the community. When I connected with ministers and Rodney Sensei, and I had mediation for the first time. And the first time I held this prayer book, and the first time Rod Sensei said, even though I was a stranger to this space and I was going to the New York Jersey gathering, you're welcome here. You're welcome here. I was a stranger. No one knew me. Just this girl who came from nowhere. But I was welcomed in, and I wasn't meant to feel odd or some outsider feeling some taboo. I was just full of you, a person trying to learn. And that's what happened with me.
Thank you. But not the next one. I'm confused. You all have such great things to say about Kung Fu, but they seem different. How do I know what is the real truth? How do I know what is the real?
You go after me. You're gonna make it harder for me. I can't follow you. You can follow. That's the thing about Coco faith is, it's your faith. That's as simple as that. We all have different stories. We all have different experiences. My experience is not going to be what defines you. You define you, and it's your faith is going to define you. Your faith will define your faith, not mine. That's what's special about Kung Fu Kyo is it is your faith, your practice of Kami-sama, and your beliefs. And, yes, all of our stories are different. All of our practices are different. We are all at different stages. But that's what's beautiful about Kung Fu Kyo is, we are all different, but we are, in a sense, all one. We are here together.
This is it's for this reason that I realized I had to write my own prayers for myself. because like, yeah, we're since we're all different, you know, we need to understand ourselves, and you know that I feel like that comes from having a relationship with Kami-sama in order to find our own truth, really, and that comes down to asking and listening, and then asking for more Kami-sama, like, am I doing the right thing for myself, and really being honest during Toritsugi, during mediation. Um, And I feel like for me, the ministers, Rodney Sensei, Defense Sensei, um, really, they really helped me to sort of open up more and just be and realize, oh, if I'm completely honest, the more I put in of how honest I am about how I'm feeling, then the better the answers I'm going to receive from Kami-sama, from our prayers. And and from that, I began to understand myself more by putting out, my needs, my desires, my fears. I would just send that to Kami-sama, and Kami-sama would say, well, I'm here for you. This is how you can approach these things in your life. And oh, and by the way, here's some people to help you out. And it's like things start to come together in such a way um, that I couldn't have predicted. And I'm meeting people that I never thought I would meet. Things are just happening, um, some good and some seemingly bad, but it all seems like it's sending me in the direction that I want to go in my life. Um, but I think I'm losing the thread of the question a little bit. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So but yeah, yeah. With that back and forth, like the pillars, like Rin was saying, is it's like, well, there's me and my prayers, just the ministers, and there's Kami-sama, and then there's the community, and just sort of pinging back and forth through all of these pillars. I've been able to sort of discover what my own truth is, and then I'm constantly journaling these things down and putting them into prayers. But I realize these are it's so niche for me. Like I hesitate, and I truly don't really share what my prayers are because they're so specific that people might think I'm crazy if I were to actually share them, but they're very specific to like my deepest inner self, and I recognize that I have to say them for myself, and I need to acknowledge things about myself, and some things I almost don't even want to accept about myself, but it's like it's been so fundamental to my life for so long. I recognize, well, this is who I am, and I have to admit that to myself, even if I don't tell others what these things are. Um, and I feel like that's how I know truth to be. And I feel like, yeah, in order to really know what truth is, uh, you really need to sort of be honest, kami-sama. And sometimes that means being honest with the ministers, with your community members. And what I like about Konkyo too is that um, a lot of the members you can be honest with and they won't judge. Because we're non-judgmental for the most part. And so with that sort of positive feedback of, oh, well, people praying for you here, Konkokyo, without judgment, without the sort of like, without the guardrails of, different, maybe some other faiths will say, oh, is that what you aspire to do? It's like, well, that kind of goes against our faith, so I'm not going to support you there. Here in Konkokyo, we don't do that. We're accepting to everybody, whatever their desires are, whatever the truth is to them. So you have a supportive community, you have great ministers that you can be honest with, and and uh, and you have the prayer book, which tells you it tells you how to discover truth is to with Ishin, and then you're able to finally discover the truth for yourself. And once you find that, you're able to have a more joyful, harmonious heart, and in the blessings flow. It's like I don't know what other way to say it. It's all
Yeah.
laid out.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Go to the next question. What is your elevator pitch when you explain Konkokyo to people that ask what your religion is? What is your elevator pitch when you explain Konkokyo to people that ask what your religion is? Thank you.
And my elevator pitch really does depend. For some people, when they ask, it's more of a, hey, like, what are you doing? Kind of, they don't always want to know too much, and so you kind of go into, oh, it's a Chinese religion. I always say it's something that's really based off of supportive and acknowledging shortcomings, but also hopeful about possibilities. And something that I always mention is that relates to that last question, but it is something that's very accepting, that there's no one true way, there's no absolute answer, which can make it really exciting because you find that with yourself and with others. And sometimes it can also make it a little bit challenging because no one is telling you exactly the right way to do things. But it is something where put yourself into it that you have really.
Anybody?
When I explain, because many people have asked me about what Konkokyo is, and I explain it in a way that I said this faith started in Japan. We used to be considered a Shinto-based faith. A lot of things came from Shintoism. However, right now we're a universal faith. We're a faith for the entire world. There are people all over the world that practice this faith, and there are people all over the world that call this faith home. We are a faith that allows people to be themselves and connect with other faiths. We are a faith that is accepting of all ways of life when it comes to finding the divine, to finding that truth in your spirit. That's the kind of faith that we are. We fully embrace every different point of the divine for somebody else. Where are other faiths that are that universal, right? We are the universal faith. We are the faith. So that's how I tell other people. When they hear that, they get really excited. And they're like, oh, that's great. Can I learn about this too? And I pass them a copy of Shine from Within, and I sit with them with my prayer book that I normally carry with me, and we start learning together.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to go next question. What is something you want to change or improve about Konkokyo? What are some ways we can encourage more people to learn more about Konkokyo? It's actually to what is something you want to change or improve about Konkokyo? What are some ways we can encourage more people to learn more about Konkokyo?
But I think that we should, it's a twofold answer, but I think that we should change about Konkokyo is that we should start moving into our digital age. A lot of the things that are happening nowadays with the world, we can't stop it or slow down from what it is. Yes, everybody wants hardback books. Yes, everybody wants all that stuff too, but everything should be digitized because if we don't have it digitized, then we're going to lose it. That means someone's going to pass away, someone's dusty attic, and we'll never see it again. Records, people, it all has to be digitized for the next generation in the future because it's coming quick. It's happening now. And for Konkokyo to continue, for it to grow, we need to be more open and accepting people who aren't like the original believer. This faith is a universal faith. We're growing from across the world. I do not look like typical believers that grew up in this faith. And there will be more people like me, and more people more different than me. But we're all the same. We're all Konkokyo believers. We're all passionate. And the only way it's going to grow in the future is if we continuously move forward into where the future is. That's why we have a Discord. That's why we have YouTube. That's why we use Zoom. Use our tools to help the faith grow. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. Anybody? Agree.
I'll say a little something. When I came here last year, like I've always been in Japanese culture and stuff, so like seeing the prayers for the first time, it's like I was excited. I was like, oh, there's like a lot of Japanese in here. Like, it's based on Japanese culture. Like that's great for me, but really thinking about it from a person who's not necessarily into Japanese culture, they'd be like definitely definitely totally put off by it or like just taken aback with like, okay, like what are these weird words and like what does that actually mean? You know, it's like, oh, who's this crazy like Konko Daijin character? Like, and so I know that, and I say this because when I try to present these kinds of things to my parents, they immediately think, oh, that's some crazy culture, just speaking some satanic language. You know, like that's the kind of family I come from, and people, there's a kind of xenophobia with some cultures when you get into the different groups and you go in and you're with them and they're like anything that's kind of foreign to like what they're used to becomes almost like very much an opposition of some sort, whether they acknowledge it or not, starkly. Um, so I feel like we very much have to tailor the message to our audience, so to speak. So like when we're speaking with English speakers, like all the words that need to be in English, I feel that's very important because like people are at least most Americans I know are like monolingual unless you've actually come from a different country. But since we're in California, we have people who speak different languages, and we're used to hearing people speaking different languages. But you go out into like the countryside, America, and it's English only. Otherwise, you're some sort of I don't even want to say what they're probably thinking, but that's where you get a sort of rejection of anything that's like not English, not American enough. So definitely tailoring the language to fit the culture that we're trying to reach um, fully, and maybe some words and stickers, but definitely getting the language locked in, tailoring.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have one last question to all of you. What brings you joy? What brings you joy?
Everybody, all of you, all the people, that's what brings me joy.
Helping people. Helping people is one of the things that bring me the most joy. When I can help somebody, then I'm happy.
Thank you.
Uh, I agree. Everybody here and the bonds that I formed that I get to see everyone year after year after year, as well as my favorite ministers, Rod
Thank you.
Well, what brings the most joy? Really, just seeing free spirits, really. Like people who are being honest with themselves. It shows. It really does show, and it brings me great joy to see that when I see people like, oh, they're really being themselves. Look at the smile on their face, and they're just free flowing. There's no hesitation. There's no redaction of speech. That brings me joy to see that amongst especially our Congo members. It brings me a great joy. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, also like being here at a conference, in nature. I enjoy the environment here. Yeah, thank you. Oh, onga, music. Very. I'm a guitarist, so yeah, I love music. Oh, and koto, as well. Which I would like to take one home. Go ahead.
Okay, I know you guys are tired of hearing me, but I did have a direct question that was sent to me. I just want to make sure I address it. So I'll make it quick. It says, John, thank you for leading family camp. I was touched by the family camp clearing and cleaning tables after meals. How does being helpful fit Funko? I think that's just one of our core beliefs, to help people, to save people, and try to become an ikigami to everyone. And I think that's just it. It's like, and I'll be honest, I did not tell them to do that. So these kids that are clearing the table from family camp, they're doing it out of their own heart. They were not told to do this. They are doing it from their own heart. And so at times I'm thinking they're growing faster than I am in the faith. But really, that's part of the fit Uncle Fuel. is just being helpful.
I just wanted to add to the point that when I was talking about the prayer book, everybody, it's if sometimes when you have the prayer book, you can actually use it to focus on your prayer for somebody's prayer. Like even if you want to say the before after meal prayer, things like that, or saying intention back Peace Day or adoration prayer or the prayer for peace. Just think about those times. If you can't think of what to say, use your prayer book. Use your prayer book.
So what I wanted to share was in context of Bryn, she was saying how she hugs her prayer book, sleeps with it at night or under her pillow. Maybe prayers, a lot of us were going, wow, that's the extreme. But to give context to Bryn, she lives in Philadelphia. There's no physical church there. So I had the realization while she was talking that this prayer verse is her concrete church. That prayer book she keeps with her, that's her physical church. Because she doesn't have a church that many of us have a local church that we may take for granted because we know it's always there. But she's in an area that has no physical church. Imagine. That's what I wanted to bring up.
Thank you very much. So it's past 11 o'clock already. So it's okay to end? Okay. But thank you very much, everybody, being here. And let's reapplaud the panelists. Thank you very much.